It is with great reluctance that I announce the indefinite suspension of the Ultimate Warrior. This suspension is a direct result of the Ultimate Warrior's failure to appear as advertised last weekend in Indianapolis, Detroit, and Pittsburgh.
Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, you're bluffing. July 21st, International Incident, I promise you this. The 3 members of Camp Cornette are going to take real good care of the 2 of you because you're coming to a gang fight and you're forgetting to bring your own gang.
Oh, yeah! All right, thank you very much. Let's take you out of Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson, standing by. Gentlemen, we're running out of time. Yeah, whom have you chosen?
Jim Cornette, we don't bluff. This is the World Wrestling Federation. Boy, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, and you should have folded. Surprise, surprise. Look what we had for Camp Cornette. My.
Psycho Sid!
You're looking at me! And you're probably asking yourself, Shawn Michaels, what have you gone and done?
Hello, my name is Bob Bamber and welcome to the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast. We're going back in the time machine to July of 1996 for Volume 2 of this month's show. Volume 1 covers a huge month of WCW action. The heel turn of Hulk Hogan, a 2-hour, 50-minute long show. You've already listened to that. Well done. Volume 3 is ECW, looking at just all your ECW action. That's Dale and Chris on that side of things. And Volume 4, me, Tom and Chris White go to the land of the UFC, reviewing UFC 10, including the debut of Mark Coleman. We're here in Volume 2 to discuss the WWF, including the International Incident. I'm being joined firstly by Wayne Lythgoe. Wayne, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Bob.
And Del Muir.
Hi, Bob.
Del starts off with the news.
Yep, Ultimate Warrior. He was suspended this month by the WWF after failing to appear at a series of live events at the end of the last month. The issue seems to be the straw that broke the camel's back, really. Quite a few stories coming out, kind of bubbling under the surface with Warrior, just regarding his general relationship with the company. On TV, Warrior's absence was pretty much presented as a shoot, with Gorilla Monsoon saying that he would only be allowed to return if he posted an appearance bond, one that's rumoured to be in 6 figures.
Warrior was replaced at live events and in the In Your House main event by Psycho Sid. By the end of the pay-per-view, Sid was almost the biggest babyface in the company. Such was the reaction he received. He said that the company did call Bret Hart asking him to return for the spot, but he declined. Bret is advertised to wrestle on a tour to South Africa in September, but even that may be an error. He's telling people he may not return at all this year. He's not currently under contract.
And talking In Your House, a massive 15,000 crowd in Vancouver for pretty much a largely forgettable show. The main event saw the team of Vader, British Bulldog and Owen Hart defeating Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson and the aforementioned Sid. That was when Vader pinned Shawn, thanks to help from Jim Cornette. Elsewhere, the Body Donnas beat the Smoking Guns in a non-title tag match, and Mankind defeated Henry O'Godwin, who was filling in for the injured Jake Roberts. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated Mark Merrill, and The Undertaker beat Goldust by disqualification. That was after an unsighted Mankind pulled him from under the ring.
To prevent more situations like Hall and Nash leaving the company, Vince McMahon is reportedly trying to get talent to sign 5-year contracts before pushing them. A few months ago, Shawn Michaels signed a 5-year deal, and other talents such as the British Bulldog are being pressured to sign similar deals. Hunter Hearst Helms, the push is expected to resume. Now he's committed to a 3-year deal also, but the 1-2-3 kid has been granted his release. He's actually expected to join the New World Order in WCW.
And talking of departures, one arrival this month was Ron Simmons, who was brought into the fold alongside Sonny. He's now been billed as Farouk Assad, and he'll be facing Ahmed Johnson at next month's SummerSlam. Crush is being brought back to the company, apparently. Remember him? He's playing off his real life conviction, and apparently he's going to be represented going forward by Clarence Mason. There are also rumours regarding the company bringing in Too Cold Scorpio.
Alongside being all over television, Jim Cornette has been making the news this month. Firstly, it's said all of the angles involving him and Jose Lothario are leading to Cornette booking himself into September's pay-per-view main event in a tag match. It's said that real issues with Shawn Michaels boiled over at a live event in Anaheim. Cornette tripped when taking a super kick, and Michaels missed the kick, leaving Shawn feeling he'd double-crossed him.
And on to the ratings for the month. On July the 1st, Nitro did a 3.3 to Raw's 2.6. On July the 8th, the night following the Bash at the Beach, Nitro did a 3.5 to Raw's 2.5. July 15th, Nitro did a 3.4 to Raw's 2.6. July 22nd, which I think is when the Olympics coverage started, Nitro did a 2.6 to Raw's 2.2. That was after In Your House on July 29th next month.
It is with great reluctance that I announce the indefinite suspension of the Ultimate Warrior. This suspension is a direct result of the Ultimate Warrior's failure to appear as advertised last weekend in Indianapolis, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. This suspension will be immediately lifted, however, as soon as the Warrior posts an appearance bond to ensure WWF fans that he will appear where advertised. However, the Ultimate Warrior is here tonight, as promised, and will wrestle Owen Hart. We remain hopeful that the Ultimate Warrior will soon post an appropriate appearance bond and return to action here in the World Wrestling Federation. Despite the immense popularity of the Ultimate Warrior, no one wrestler is above answering to our loyal WWF fans.
We open up Raw on July the 1st with Shawn Michaels against Marty Jannetty. The match takes the better part of 15 minutes. Shawn wins with the sweet chin music. Leif Cassidy attacks him straight after the match, but Shawn super kicks him. Jim Cornette jumps in the ring, but Shawn sees him coming, so he stops. Jose Lothario then floors Cornette with the right hand. We see an in-ring segment from Superstars. Sonny leads Phineas on, asking him to close his eyes and bend in for a kiss before slapping him. The other members of the Godwin family help run off the smoking guns. They corner Sonny before Phineas threatens to slop her, hesitates before slopping her anyway. Segment was worth it for Vince McMahon saying, "Look at that, big chunks and all." Jake Roberts is out on commentary for a match between Mankind and Duke Druzy. Raw spends the entire match ribbing on him. Mankind wins with the mandible claw. Bickering between Lawler and Roberts turns sour. Lawler slaps Roberts and Roberts chokes him out. Mankind comes over after the match and puts him in the mandible claw. It's Roberts, that is. Jim Ross invites people to call the WWF Superstar line to find out, quote, why the Ultimate Warrior is in the doghouse. Steve Austin is out on commentary for a match between Mark Merrow and Goldust. We get some interaction at ringside between Marlena and Sable. Merrow gets distracted by it all and Goldust wins the match. We open up July the 9th with Gorilla Monsoon in his office announcing the suspension of the Ultimate Warrior following him missing some live events. His suspension will be lifted if he pays his appearance bond, which is basically a shoot. Whole thing is a bit awkward as the first match taped for the show is Ultimate Warrior against Owen Hart. The setup changes clearly through the entire show out of whack, causing commentary to be retaped and new studio segments to be spliced in. Cut to the first of many cut-ins throughout the show. Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson in a studio. They say their surprise third partner is on his way. Bulldog walks out to ringside during the match, right as Warrior is starting to stir. Warrior hits a shoulder charge. Bulldog runs at Warrior and the ref calls for the DQ. Convenient, given that they now suspended him, was that Bulldog, Vader and Owen end up beating Warrior in the post-match angle. That all worked out quite nicely. Brian Pillman tries to attack Savio Vega during his entrance. Mr. Perfect phones in but doesn't really seem to go anywhere. Vega defeats Justin Hawk Bradshaw, but Bradshaw and Zebekiah attack him after the match with a cowbell and they brand him. The main event is Vader and Bulldog versus the Godwins. Cornette is on commentary being his usual self. Henry O catches Vader for a running crossbody in the corner and plants him with a slam in the middle of the ring in a highly impressive spot. Bulldog wins it with a running power slam on Phineas. We return from commercial, we're back in the studio with Shawn and Ahmed, and they unveil Psycho Sid. Cornette, as you'd expect, is apoplectic. Sid cuts his usual balmy, shouty, whispering promo. All credit to how they put that together after the show had been taped. That all worked out quite well. First up on July the 15th, Bart faces Ahmed Johnson for the Intercontinental title. Sonny counts her chickens by thinking about all the titles she could have by the end of the night. Bart works Johnson's arm around the ring post and pensive Shawn Michaels is shown on the split screen. Ahmed hits the spine buster before the Pearl River plunge and that's that, thankfully. Sable accompanies Mark Merrow to the ring, and Goldust Usher gives her another gift, which the Wild Man discards. TL Hopper, or Kevin Sullivan the plumber, comes out to face him. It's not actually Kevin Sullivan, obviously. King calls TL a walking anti-drug campaign. Just say no to crack. Stone Cold gets the split screen treatment and says that Merrow is due a receipt for busting his mouth last month. A bored crowd tried to start a Sable chant, and Merrow hits a quick left right for the win. Vince introduces a music video for The Undertaker, How Philadelphia. His theme music gets the makeover treatment with flashes of Goldust and Mankind midway through. Very nice production. Vince passes on sympathies to the Hart family for the tragic passing of Brett and Owen's 13-year-old nephew. Shawn Michaels defeats Billy Gunn in the main event. We cut backstage for an interview with Johnson and Michaels, but Cornette cuts in. He soaks Shawn with a soda. As the two ran after him, Camp Cornette jumped them in the parking lot. This then gets interrupted by Psycho Sid, who speeds across screen in his car and rounds into some wooden pallets and bins, and the three of them run away as we roll titles.
Welcome back, everyone, to more Monday Night Raw. Jim Cornette back in the locker room area. You don't seem too upset over whom Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson are going to choose as a partner.
Why would I be upset? It's been a real productive night for Camp Cornette because the Ultimate Warrior's out of the picture in more ways than one. And Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, they're just bluffing. They're trying to buy time. They ain't got no partner.
They don't have anybody, do they, Jimmy?
Of course not, King, because nobody in their right mind would step into that spot to be their partner in that six-man tag. After what we just did a little while ago to the Warrior,
right.
I happen to know that all the WWF superstars, they already have prior commitments.
Yeah.
So nobody in their right mind would step into it. All the other guys are taken. So Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, you're bluffing. July 21st, International Incident. I promise you this. The three members of Camp Cornette are going to take real good care of the two of you because you're coming to a gang fight and you're forgetting to bring your own gang.
Oh, yeah! All right, thank you very much. Let's take you out of Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson standing by. Gentlemen, we're running out of time. Whom have you chosen?
Jim Cornette, we don't bluff. This is the World Wrestling Federation. Boy, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, and you should have folded. Surprise, surprise. Look what we had for Camp Cornette.
Psycho Sid!
You're looking at me! And you're probably asking yourself, Shawn Michaels, what have you gone and done?
Yeah, twice he's opened the gates of hell, and he's released me. This time for you, Cornette, and the Cornette camp.
There's nothing. There's no good news.
Listen, I can hear you screaming out for help. But there's no one there.
I'd much rather be on this team, believe me.
There's no one there.
Thank you, gentlemen, and Jim Cornette.
Put the camera back on me. What are you trying to do to me? Gorilla Monsoon, somebody try to do... Camp Cornette.
And we move on to In Your House International Incident. We'll start with the free-for-all. We're in Vancouver, and there is a lot of people in the building, 15,000 as we said in the news. We have with Justin Hawk Bradshaw against Savio Vega. Bradshaw catches Vega in a crossbody, plants him, then puts his feet on the bottom ropes for the win. Afterwards, they brand him. We then follow that with a really nice video feature on The Undertaker. We move on to an in-ring debate between Jim Cornette and Jose Lothario, shared by Jim Ross. Cornette goes through the usual before saying he would knock Lothario out if he lays a hand on him tonight. Things break down. Cornette goes to hit Lothario with a tennis racket, but Jose ducks and lays him out with a punch. Vader comes out, backs Cornette towards the corner. Shawn Michaels storms out in a chase and manages to slide so far across the ring he ends up stopping between the pair over the other side of the ring, which was very good. We get backstage. Cornette says he's going to offer a money-back guarantee. If Camp Cornette lose, the refunds are on him. And move on to the pay-per-view itself. Del, you can kick us off with the results.
Yep, first up, Bob, we've got the non-title tag matches between the Bonnie Torres, Skip and Zip, and they beat the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart. Mankind defeated Henry O. Godwin. Stone Cold Steve Austin beat Mark Merrow, who was accompanied by Sable. The Undertaker beat Goldust by disqualification after Mankind came up from under the ring. And in the main event, Camp Cornette, which was Vader, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, they defeated the People's Posse, which was Shawn Michaels, Psycho Sid and Ahmed Johnson, accompanied by Jose Lothario.
Wayne, thoughts on the show?
It was a bit hit and miss. I thought it really showed that the undercard of the WWF is quite poor at the moment. But I thought that main event was something that probably saved the whole pay-per-view.
Del?
It's the issue to be run with these In Your House pay-per-views, Bob. They kind of just, it's nearly like a placeholder where you're getting a shorter show, you're getting a cheaper buy. it fills a place in the month if you're looking to pay for WWF actions. A couple of good bits in the middle of it, but overall you weren't missing much.
No, it was the thing I said last month. It was, what risk do you run putting 6 of your biggest acts in one match even on a 5-match card? The answer is quite a lot. Jake Roberts was on the show. He was injured, we think. I know at the time of the show itself, they weren't too sure where he is, but they were explaining it on TV, and I understand that it was just a matter of him having a rib problem. So that's all fine. But yeah, just an entirely forgettable undercard. And then a very good main event coupled by one of the most astonishing reactions for Psycho Sid. I don't know. We'll come to it when we get there, but I don't know what, were people being told beforehand? Just, Sid's over, pass it on. Was that the memo going around Vancouver on the day of the show? I've got no idea, but we'll get to that in a bit. But we start the pay-per-view with the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart with Sonny.
Sonny did have smoking buns.
Well, that's true. Billy and Bart with Sonny versus the Body Donners, Skip and Zip. Cloudy is no more. Yes, after 1 month. They've already dropped that one. We start with a double team back body drop on Billy. The Guns regroup. The Body Donners double team Bart. Skip hits a nice head scissors on Billy, but Billy comes off the ropes with a rocker dropper. All 4 men go on their own sides of the ring. Sonny takes a dive and then pretends to collapse. Not like a dive, she just fell over. Not like a suicide dive or anything like that. Skip goes over to check on her. She slaps him and the Guns running over with a double team clothesline. A bit of heat in the match, but boy was that spot convoluted. Bart slams Skip into the turnbuckle. He hits hard. They then repeat the spot. Skip goes off the top and Bart catches him in a lovely power slam. Bart holds Skip in a wheelbarrow position on the top rope. Billy attempts to leapfrog him, but Billy can't make it. They stop and look at each other, and that elicits laughter from the crowd. Skip is getting hammered here. Zip isn't able to get involved. Skip gets roll up, then hits a crossbody from the second rope. He stands up attempting a tag, but Bart just runs him over. Billy comes off the top. Skip catches him in an atomic drop. Bart picks up Zip for the sidewalk slam. Skip comes off the top with a drop kick. Zip lands on top of Bart and pins him for the win. And in my notes, because I wasn't paying attention, I just assumed everything. Apparently this isn't for the tag titles, and I've got no idea why. Wayne?
Yeah, that's my first thoughts straight away. Is they announced it was a non-title match coming out, and I just didn't understand why at all. I mean, I understand that the Body Donners probably needed to get the win to end this feud, but they didn't want to put the titles on the Body Donners, but there could have been another way of going around it rather than having a non-title match. And talking about the Guns, I'm not buying them as a heel tag team at all. They show no personality. If Sonny wasn't with them, I wouldn't believe that there was a heel tag team in the first place. The match itself, I thought it was a little dragged out. A few botches, one big botch with the leapfrog. But I've seen better from these two teams. The only thing I did like was probably the finish, which nice move from Skip there. But at the end, raises questions over the Smoking Guns with the arguing and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't enjoy this at all.
Yeah, it's all a bit weird. You've got the Smoking Guns, who are a heel tag team that probably should be a babyface tag team, and the Body Donners, who are a babyface tag team that probably should be a heel tag team. That doesn't really make any sense, Del.
I'd love to help you, Bob, but I'm genuinely coming out of this with more questions than answers. Why are the roles as they are? The Smoking Guns, they're a couple of handsome fellas. They should be kind of good guys. As you say, the Body Donners, I just don't think anybody cared about them, and I don't really know if they should have. It was just really strange. The red flag for me was the non-title match before it got underway. You just knew the Body Donners were going to win it. I don't know when Harvey Whippleman became a referee. The full thing just kind of confused me really, and that bit in the middle with the stuttered kind of leapfrog attempt for the Guns just kind of summed it up for me.
Well, Dave Meltzer reckoned that it was a spot that was designed to kind of, to lay the foundation for a breakup of the Guns. I just thought they fucked it up.
That's a very positive outlook.
I was going to say that's a very kind of rose-tinted way of looking at things. And he may be right, but it just looked like they fucked up a move because there was no, they didn't look at each other as if to say, "Oh, let's lay the seeds of a breakup." They kind of looked at each other and went, "Yeah, we fucked that up." And then the crowd started laughing, which wasn't the greatest. This match was awful. I mean, the whole thing with the tag division's awful. I said that before on this show, and it's been the same for God knows how long. But I just, at least when the Guns are babyfaces and the Body Dons are heels, it's like, well, the Guns aren't very good, but they're a likable acts. The Body Dons aren't very good, but they're a detestable act to one degree or another. And now you've got them the other way around. It's like, well, I don't really care about the Guns as heels. I don't really care about the Body Dons as babyfaces. Sonny, I think, has jumped the shark in terms of I don't think Sonny is a worthwhile act anymore. Another, we talk about them splitting up Sonny with the Guns. We'll get to the end of the month and we may well end up getting there judging by the way they're going. But it just didn't work. It was an awful match. It's weird. We've had quite a few occasions this year. The free-for-all or the opening match has been the tag match. It's invariably been a title match. We get a show that is desperate for something on the undercard ahead of the main event. And it's not a tag title match. I mean, I think the logic is that on a card where Steve Austin, a heel, is going to be winning, Mankind, a heel, is going to be winning, and The Undertaker is going to be winning but only by disqualification, and the main event, the heels are going to be winning. They didn't want to change the titles, but they wanted to have a babyface victory. But there's other ways of doing it. I just couldn't care about these two teams. Listen to me on previous shows about WWF Tag Team Division. It's not really worth talking about. We get a promo backstage with Camp Cornette, and Vader is tearing things up. We move on next to Mankind versus Henry Godwin with Hillbilly Jim. Godwin is a late replacement for Jake Roberts. Mankind doesn't really know what to make of Godwin and Hillbilly Jim. Godwin rocks him with some rights and hits him with a slam and sends him over the top. Mankind starts to go up the R-way, then thinks better of it. Mankind hits a running bulldog, then an elbow. He follows that with a leg drop on the apron before pulling the matting up at ringside. Then hits a swinging neck breaker on the concrete. Godwin runs over Mankind with a clothesline. Mankind gets on the apron, but Godwin slams him onto the exposed concrete. Mankind is trying to kill himself again. Mankind blocks a slop drop, then goes for a mandible claw, and this one is all over. Del.
I really thought, I'm so happy for Mick Foley that he's getting a national audience, but I really thought when he was coming to New York, these kind of big bumps and diving for aprons onto the concrete, I thought that might be kind of not neutered, but at least calmed down a wee bit. I do worry for that, man. I was a wee bit worried coming into this where they were going with his new kind of character. I didn't know whether they were maybe trying to ruin him with this kind of deranged gimmick. He's fighting Henry Godwin. I don't know when the hell Henry Godwin became a substitute for even a 1996 Jake the Snake. It was a match that kind of felt as if it was just building to what we would obviously see with Mankind later on. Henry Godwin did show a couple of good things in it. There was a nice double leg takedown for him. Apart from that, there wasn't really much in this, but as I say, I'm just glad to see Mankind moving on to something bigger and better with the looks at it.
Wayne?
Yeah, the match itself, wasn't great. I think the best they could probably do at short notice, but again, I think that just shows the weaknesses in the roster at the minute and shows how bad that the mid card or undercard is because, pulling Hogg out of a tag team into a singles match to replace Jake the Snake Roberts is not something that you'd really want to see. But I thought Mankind got a good match out of him, to be fair. Made him look quite strong. The match was there to build Mankind up and put the mandible claw over even further. It was a bit of another poor match, but I'm liking how where this Mankind character's going.
Del, why is Mankind trying to kill himself?
I don't know, and he seems determined. I mean, if you would have thought when he gets to the kind of big lights of the WWF, it might have kind of calmed him down a wee bit, but at least for fuck's sake, Mick, try and do it in something that somebody cares about, not against a hog farmer. It's like, try and make it in a bigger stage, but bless his heart, you can never fault him for trying.
You can't, but you can question his IQ for doing it on such an irrelevant stage. I mean, match 2 of a show that probably 100,000 people, if that, have bought. Like, I mean, what, you know, like for us, it wasn't even a spot that meant anything. No. Like, you know, it was a massive spot. It was probably the biggest spot of the entire show, and you got up 2 minutes later and won the match. Like, it's just, I don't get it. I don't get what the thinking is. Like, I don't think anyone was any better off doing the move. It was a sickening thud. I mean, Mankind was on the apron, kind of like his kind of shuffle forward to do a jumping attack. Godwin catches him and flips him onto his back, and he just lands back first.
Right in the concrete, man. It was sick.
I don't know. Wayne, any thoughts on that?
No more. I think you've hit the nail on the head with picking your moments on spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather they didn't do them full stop. But if you're going to do it, like, do it in front of an audience and do it on a show that matters, in a match that matters. This wasn't any of those things, other than the people in attendance. But it wasn't even a spot that people reacted to. It was just there. Anyway, move on. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Wildman Mark Mero. We start with a quick exchange of punches and a fast crossbody from Mero. Mero starts working the arm. Austin counters into a side headlock. Mero a head scissors. Mero bridges out the pin into a backslide battle. Mero hits a double axe handle off the apron, then a reverse roll-up using his legs. Austin gets Mero on the outside and sets for a catapult into the ring post. It was too close and it didn't really work. Austin drops an elbow from the second rope, then locks in a modified camel clutch. Austin goes for a powerbomb. Mero hangs on and head scissors Austin over the top. Meanwhile, King gets a gift from Goldust Helper in an envelope. Mero does a rolling running senton onto Austin onto the floor. Around the other side of the ring, he hits a standing moonsault from the apron to the floor. It's a slingshot splash back into the ring for a 2, then a 10 punch in the corner. Austin pushes him off and crotches him on the top rope. Austin goes for a stunner, but Mero blocks it on the top rope. Mero hits a slingshot leg drop for a 2. Austin sets it back up, hits a stunner, and that will do that. A lot of cheers for that one. Wayne?
I really enjoyed this match. This is where it picked up a little bit on the pay-per-view. We had a nice quick start between the two of them. A bit of mat wrestling from Steve Austin. Now, these two guys, we saw at King of the Ring that they had a really good showing, and I think they've had a match, one of the WCW pay-per-views together, but I'm not quite sure if they've had many battles against each other, but they've got really good chemistry between themselves, and I like how they played homage to the storyline of last month where he burst the lip of Steve Austin. Like I said, it was a really good match throughout, good finish. On the Stone Cold Steve Austin gimmick, though, is he not meant to be playing someone who shows no emotion? Because there was times there where he was laughing and other times where he was showing different emotions within his face. And if he is meant to be playing this kind of character, I'd only look down south at Dean Malenko as an example and using that Iceman gimmick. If you want to go down that route, that's probably the route you need to go to, but maybe I'm just being a bit too picky.
Isn't it more a character that has, it's not no emotion, it's just, no empathy? Isn't it more that kind of thing where, like, it's not that they lack emotion, they just lack, compassion for their opponents? Isn't that more what it is?
Well, it could be, but Jim Ross on commentary actually confirmed it when he said those words. Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't show any emotion. So it was that was where I picked it up from, and that's where my thoughts come from.
No arguments with that, Del.
I'm more on your side, Bob, when it comes to Stone Cold. I know we call him Stunning Steve, but he is different to what we've seen with Stunning Steve. He turned up in ECW. You seen him with a buzz cut, and he looked different. Now you see him with a skinhead. Somebody that's in ECW, they're trying to kind of pattern after somebody's Devon Dudley, who's meant to be like a Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I don't know if he's watched it when it came out, but Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction had a wallet, and the wallet said "bad motherfucker." That's just what I think of when I think of this Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's got a badass walk, the skinhead. He's constantly just riling up a crowd. I think he's really, really good. That Stone Cold Stunner I really like. It's kind of like a modified diamond cutter. I like that. I know he was coming into this as a baddie, and I'm talking about a bad motherfucker here, and he's getting cheers at the end, which maybe doesn't bode too well for the character, but I'm very much on side with it. As Wayne was saying, the two of them's got decent chemistry. They're a couple of bits in the middle that didn't quite make sense for me. I just don't get why they don't they can't do Johnny B. Bad with the full issues that we had with the boss and the boss man in WCW, so they can't bring him to WWF and make him Johnny B. Bad, but he's got the history with boxing. Just give him a boxer gimmick, it makes sense, and he doesn't need to be cutting about with Sable, who I think just takes the shine off him. I think Sable's easily more popular than Mero. But I mean, apart from that, it was a decent enough match, certainly match of the night so far, but as Wayne was saying as well, about harking back to last month with the bus lip with Steve Austin, it made sense. They had a decent match. I don't really get why Mark Merrill was doing a moonsault for the apron to the side, considering they must be about 240 or 250. But apart from that, it was a decent match. I like the Steve Austin character. Things are looking up for the night.
I think that review was longer than the match. Well said. Yeah, no, it was a good match. I'm kind of struggling with both of these guys at the moment. I think perhaps in that I kind of think, as much as these guys mesh well in ring, I don't think their characters mesh well at all, and that goes for both of them. And it just I'm kind of watching this match without any real investment either side. I don't really care enough about either guy to really get invested in the match. It was good, Mero's, we know Mero's got, the high flying offense down to a T, but it's less about him not being able to play Johnny B. Bad. Can't he just play a similar happy-go-lucky babyface? Why does he need to be this intense babyface character? I think he'd be better off as a heel if he's going to play this role. He can be something different to Johnny B. Bad and still be a Johnny B. Bad style babyface, surely. That would have been my thought. But the match just, it was just there. I thought Mero's offense down the stretch was good, but it kind of come back to what I said about Mankind. What does it matter in a match that doesn't really mean that much? And also, what does it matter, if you do all that offense and you still don't win? We're kind of getting back to the Too Cold Scorpio thing in ECW. Don't do all these high-flying moves if you're not going to win the match. What's the point? It was fine. It was a good match. Second best match on the card. I didn't say a lot. But yeah, it was there. We cut to the crowd, and it's Bob Backlund. And did that go anywhere?
He's just still campaigning. Why he's campaigning for US President in Canada, I don't quite know. But anytime Mr. Backlund's on the screen, I'm happy.
Well, there we go. Move on next. It's Goldust with Marlena versus The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Goldust begins the match by slowly running away. He nearly gets into the first row of the crowd and he decides he might actually want to get in the ring. More standoffs as we get into the ring. Goldust breathes in and Undertaker levels in with a right. More standoff. This reminds me of Goldust and Warrior. That match was excellent as well. Undertaker goes to the outside and levels in with a right before chokeslamming onto the steps. Undertaker grabs the ring steps and threatens to flatten Goldust, but Marlena protects him. The crowd pop big for that. We return to the ring. Goldust tries to pick off the turnbuckle with his teeth. Undertaker hits a leg drop and nearly gets it. Goldust unloads on Undertaker in the corner. Undertaker counters with some strikes and a headbutt. Goldust clotheslines into the outside, but Undertaker lands on his feet. Goldust gathers Undertaker on the apron. Taker counters with a neck breaker. We get to the outside. Goldust essentially places the ring step across Undertaker's back. Gets in the ring, lets out a roar, and the crowd respond in kind. The crowd rally with a big rest in peace chant. Undertaker attempts a tombstone. Goldust counters, so Undertaker hits an inside cradle. Yes, Undertaker, all 6'10" of him, hit an inside cradle. Gets a 2. Taker hits a running clothesline, a tombstone, and wins the match. Oh, no, he doesn't. I was so certain he was winning, I put it in my notes. There we go. The big giveaway that it wasn't going to win the match was that Taker put Goldust in the pin, and the ref for about 3 or 4 seconds just laid there, and you could tell he was waiting for a cue.
I think you've been generous with the 3 or 4 seconds, but
as long as that. Anyway, so you take an age to start the count, and the reason they can start the count is that Mankind tears through the apron, drags Undertaker under the ring. I'll say what happened now, actually. There's a lot of stalling as Mankind poses above the hole. Undertaker has disappeared. The lights come back up. Undertaker climbs out of the hole across the other side of the ring and chases Mankind to the back. Jim Ross calls this a war. We cut backstage and the battle continues. It's so poorly lit, so forgive me for this. Vince says it's a boiler room, and then the feed cuts out. Wayne?
It's. I thought it went on a bit too long. They could have put on a better match in my eyes, and I just thought it was another match that was taking far longer than what it should do. Probably just to drag out this 5-match card pay-per-view. One of the things I would say is I've never in my lifetime of watching wrestling thought or would ever want to see, have I ever seen Undertaker doing an inside cradle before? It's just a move I would never have him down to do. The match, the finish itself was probably ruined. I don't understand, I like Goldust as a character, he plays a heel character really well, but do we really need to protect him? I understand that they've got to progress the storyline of Mankind Undertaker further, but I thought you could have had Undertaker pick up the win by pinfall, clean finish, and then Mankind do what he did afterwards. It just confused me a little bit.
No.
I must admit, I disagree with Wayne on this one. They've done such a good job of building this. I seriously can't wait for this Taker Mankind match. Whether it's in a boiler room, as we kind of find out at the end of the match, or if it's a brawl, I just think they've done a brilliant job of building this. Taking away for the end, there wasn't much in the match. I can see that Dustin Rhodes has really worked on this Goldust character. He's really came on the last time I seen him. There was the kind of almost not really blown spot at the end with the pin, but you could tell that something was kind of going to happen, but the way that they delivered that I thought was really, really good. Even just the kind of little touches with like the lighting and the music at the end, even the smoke played a part in it. I think this was more about the way that they've built up this Taker Mankind feud. The only thing that I want to say kind of more about the match itself, I think Goldust and Marlena really are a perfect fit. The full entrance, we spoke about it, Bob, whenever he debuted this character, and it was almost like you see the entrance, then it didn't really do much. Now that he's worked on the character, that is improving, but the full entrance, the pairing with Marlena are just a perfect fit. Bearer and Taker always have been a perfect fit. I think it's two of the best kind of wrestler-manager tandems that you're going to get right now in the world. As I say, the match was a bit slow. It was almost as if Taker was going back to like 1991 when he was kind of in that kind of more slower pace, which wasn't really brilliant, but it did pick up. The match wasn't much, but it was all about the ending, and I thought they'd done it brilliant.
Yeah, I feel with Goldust like I kind of feel something that Brian Pillman's got to be aware of, which is the character's quite good, but the character doesn't lend itself very well to interesting matches. And interesting not as in like, there's stuff always going on in Goldust matches, and he's always got that going for him. But it's like matches where I'm looking at it and going, is this match going to be exciting? Goldust comes out and I invariably think, no, it's not. And it doesn't help they'll spend a long time kind of, just prancing around, not doing a lot early doors. It's just, Goldust doesn't feel like a good combination with anybody right now, which isn't the best thing you want to be able to say. As for the setup, I agree with Wayne. I don't think it makes any difference. I don't think it would have made any difference had Goldust had just lost and then had just done the post-match angle anyway. I don't feel like, Mankind, I don't feel like Undertaker gained much by not winning the match. I don't think Goldust gained much either by winning it. As for the post-match angle, it was nice. In fact, it was very good. I tell a lie. They have done the thing with the canvas before, but not frequently enough where anyone's waiting for it. The spot with the ref was a bit, that took a long ass while. I think I was pleasantly surprised because it all seemed set up for Undertaker to just disappear under the ring and it to end. And then setting it up with Undertaker tearing through the other side and then chasing Mankind to the back. That was a big thumbs up. But yeah, the bit backstage with the boiler room, that didn't work. Far too dark. It was shot. The idea was we were going to try and be spontaneous with it. There's being spontaneous. You've still got to strike that balance between that and enabling people to see what you're trying to do. And they didn't get there. I think that's what I'd say about that. But a decent match, I would say. We get a promo with the faces from the main event while they fix the ring. Sid as a face is a bit weird. Sean starts driving out to ringside and fans lean so far over the guardrail that it collapses. Laura is deliriously happy with that. On to the main event, it's Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario, Ahmed Johnson and Psycho Sid versus Camp Cornette, the British Bulldog Vader and Owen Hart with Jim Cornette. Ahmed Johnson has clearly been to visit Cactus Jack's ECW shirt designer. He's wearing the sleeveless tee with the gear like Jack used to wear while he was in ECW. Dale, does that remind you of that?
See, I thought it was more like Warrior and Jimmy Hart's jackets. See how they get the kind of spray painted jackets? I thought it was more like them.
That's exactly what I thought.
Oh, yeah, no, but Del, do you remember the Three Faces of Fear shirt that
right enough, when he was ribbing them when he left WCW.
I think you're right, he's more reminiscent of Jimmy Hart, but that was the, I think it was more, it reminded me more of the Three Faces of Fear shirt than
it was just after the tag title, hang on, I'd forgot about that actually.
We start with Ahmed and Vader, but Vader goes towards the face corner and signals for Shawn, who tags in. Shawn attempts to win a striking exchange with Vader. That ends badly. Shawn goes up on top of Vader, then rolls out with a Frankenstein and a crossbody, sending Vader to the outside. He follows that with a slingshot crossbody. Shawn misses one move too many. Vader gets him in the corner and starts throwing strikes. The crowd fire up a Sid chant. Michaels tags him in. This is probably the first time that Sid and Vader have met since what happened in 1993 with Blackburn with Sid and Arn Anderson, I would have thought. Sid throws everyone over the top rope and is the most over guy in the WWF I can remember. We get back to the Owen and Sid. Sid tags out to the point that I think the crowd were a bit let down by that. Owen hits Owen with a trio of German suplexes. Owen hits a power of a plunge on Bulldog, but Vader breaks up the cover. Another huge Sid chant breaks out in Vancouver. Vader smashes into Ahmed in the corner and loads some strikes. Vader charges at Ahmed. Ahmed catches him and hits a running body slam for a 2. Another loud Sid chant. Ahmed picks up Owen with a big slam. In comes Sid. Bulldog tags in, hits a big stalling suplex for a 2. Vader follows it with a running elbow, but Sid kicks out. Michaels tags in, slams Bulldog off of the opposite corners, but ends up smashing his shoulder into the ring post. Shawn goes for a cover. Owen jumps in to break up the pin. Shawn moves and Owen ends up dropping an elbow on Bulldog. Owen goes for a pin attempt. We get an Oklahoma roll, as Jim Ross calls it, as the pair roll around attempting pins. Michaels bridges out of a pin into a backslide. Owen returns to his feet and smashes Shawn with a clothesline. Bulldog goes for a running elbow, but Shawn moves. Shawn comes off the top. Owen hits him with a cast and Shawn goes down. Vader tags in with Shawn down. Vader fires Shawn into the turnbuckle and over the top to the floor. Vader and Sid get into it. Vader pins Shawn for a 2. We get a standing rest hold. A fan jumps on the apron on the second rope. Bulldog and Ahmed both jump in the ring and see him away. The fan shit himself basically when they ran towards him. Fans cheer him off as he presumably gets led away. It's a really long rest hold. Vader gets a choke in on Shawn's Adam's apple when the ref isn't looking. Shawn eventually rallies out, but Vader hits him with a shoulder tackle. Vader hits a splash, gets up, and Ahmed Johnson runs him over with a big clothesline. Shawn goes for a crucifix. Bulldog stops it into a Samoan drop. Owen tags in. He and Shawn crash into each other, and both men are down. Shawn's been in this match a while. Sid drops a leg over Bulldog, who is covering Shawn. Vader tags in. Shawn gets a hot tag to Ahmed, but the ref didn't see it. With the ref trying to stop Ahmed and Jose Lothario, the heels 3-on-1 Shawn. Bulldog holds up Michaels. Owen goes for a drop kick, but Shawn moves and Owen leathers him. Sid gets a hot tag. He chokes on Vader, then Owen, then Bulldog. It was quite convoluted, but the crowd are all over this. Sid and Shawn hit a rocket launcher on Vader. Shawn gets his hands on Cornette. Vader gets a racket, but Shawn stops him and hits Vader with the racket. Vader kicks out. Shawn tunes up the band. Cornette pulls him back as he goes for it. Vader takes advantage, runs him over in the corner, hits a massive Vader bomb, and pins Shawn for the win. After the match, Sid hits a powerbomb on both Bulldog and Owen. He goes for one on Vader, but Owen and Bulldog pull into safety. Shawn throws himself over the top onto Vader and starts brawling with him. The babyfaces pose in the ring afterwards. Wayne, thoughts on all this?
Oh, it was great. Easily the match of the night, and I would probably go as far as saying that if it wasn't for this match, I wouldn't have enjoyed this pay-per-view at all. So, it did save it in that sense. Again, all the guys in there was really put on a showing. Ahmed, again, I much prefer him in matches like these where, he's not trying to carry a match or be in there for a full duration because, not only is he still his usual green self, but he blows up way too easily in a match. So why the title's on him, I'm not so sure about that one. Sid, massive pop, and as we covered off in the news, he was probably the most over guy of the night. And as we mentioned before about Henry Godwinn not really being a solid replacement for Jake Roberts, we'll probably say Sid as a babyface here is probably as over as what Warrior was. So slid nicely in there. As I said, it was a match where where everyone was was pulling on a good performance. I'm now ready for Owen Shawn Michaels big main event title match. I think these two guys have put on a really good showing. So excellent progression of storylines again. Sets up the the match with Vader and Michaels now with Vader getting the pin. So yeah, big thumbs up from me on this.
Del,
where the fuck did this Sid stuff come from? Seriously,
no idea.
I mean, Sid Judy is never going to be Luthez, right? But he is fucking over his rover in this, man. And I don't know where it came. I mean, you seen it at the start. As soon as Sean's music hit, you see a rush of fans to the guardrail. Obviously, it was a wee bit too much of a rush considering the guardrail burst right onto the aisleway. But Sean, you expect it. Sid just blew me away. And this, I don't know where it came from. He's never going to be a catch wrestler, but he's got a good look.
It's not as if he even left as a hot heel last year. He just fizzled out.
It's just there wasn't any big explosive end to his last run, and he's just come in nowhere. And there's a bit that we'll see with the TVs where he kind of goes into the back with the car and he just kind of steams in it like 80 mile an hour, and it's like as if he just done that in this match, and it was really strange. The match itself, I was actually a bit worried coming into it because I know it was about 35-40 minutes left of the show time, and this started. I was like, oh, shit, we've got Owen and we've got Sean, but when you mix in an Ahmed Johnson, when you mix in a Davey Boy Smith, it's like, I hope there's a lot of Owen and Sean in this match, but they did actually carry it off quite well. Similar to when I'm more kind of on the Owen Sean side, I'm more a kind of stereotypical intercontinental champion size wrestlers in a match that I'm more interested in than like a Sid and an Ahmed Johnson. And even when we're saying not even putting a title on Ahmed, but putting the workers title on Ahmed just seems a bit strange. But they did really well in this, to be fair. It was more, for me, it was more about the Sid reaction was ridiculous, but it was just a big moment for kind of Big Van Vader at the end that I thought really touched it off nice. I'd like a bit more comeuppance for Jim Cornette, but for who they had in the match, considering they were literally lumbered with like a Sid and a Bulldog, and I thought they'd done it really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, it was brave to an extent to send this match so long. But I think you're right, John, that there is just enough in this match. Like we talk about Johnson and Bulldog, but this is also a match that involves Vader as well. Like Vader can carry his own. You've got Jim Cornette on the outside as well, who can cover if things get a bit flat. So they had enough going for them, but I mean. Maybe the Vancouver crowd would have been all over, Warrior as well, perhaps. But it was just incredible. I don't, like, you've got Sid comes out, and it's like, he's our new lead babyface. Almost. Like, I know you might say we're still short, and you're probably still right, but it's like, this was like, buying a lottery ticket and finding out it's worth $50,000. Like, what the hell was this? And I couldn't really explain any of that. I still can't now, but it wasn't just a one night thing, as we'll come to in the TVs that follow. Sid got a great reaction the following night. There is no logical explanation for this. He was a really, really flat heel, actually really flat, really. I mean, when you consider that they had to kind of truncate his run with Shawn because Shawn turned babyface, and they put Sid with the $1 Million Corporation, that whole thing just fell apart, and you were like, this isn't going anywhere. And then Sid just disappeared after a while. He came back in, and I don't know if it's Yokozuna in the spot. Yokozuna was the other name they were talking about to replace Warrior. Well, certainly once Bret Hart wasn't in the running. I don't think Yokozuna would have got this kind of reaction. But yeah, a really decent match, like a decent tag match. Wayne, let's talk about the booking of Vader, because I feel like you could look at the booking of Vader, and if you were going to be reasonably selective, you could say they've done a good job with Vader. But and what do you think about his booking tonight, and what do you think about him going into the title match next month with Shawn? Because it doesn't feel like it's as big as it should be.
No, I think when he come in and made his debut at the Royal Rumble, you know, he made a really impressive effort at the Royal Rumble. Went off with injury not long after, and hasn't really been booked as strongly as you would hope, or as strongly as he did when he was at the top of the heel status in WCW. So if he's going one-on-one with Shawn Michaels, we probably would have been more excited about it if they would have done a better job on the booking. But tonight, I still think we've probably got what needed to happen to progress this storyline. But could it have been done a little bit better? I'm not sure.
Del?
I think they kind of muddy the waters a wee bit, I think, with this one, Bob, where it's like you look at the build that they've done with Taker and Mankind. Taker's nemesis at the minute seems to be Mankind, and Mankind vice versa with Taker. This one, where you're mixing it in with a 6-man tag, it's kind of hard to get the spotlight on the big man any more than they've done. They gave him the win. They've got Cornette there backing him up as the mouthpiece. He's an impressive kind of figure as a guy, especially when you match him up with like a Shawn, who's a kind of high fly and Mr. Athleticism, and then you just get him up against a big beast in Vader. It's kind of hard to do it any better than they've done when it is in that the kind of muddy waters of having like another 2 men on each team. I don't think that's helped. There's kind of what we mentioned in the news as well. I think there's just a big bit of a fear culture than if they don't seemingly want to build anybody that big just in case. But I mean, I think considering the factors involved, and I think they've done all right. They could have done better. As I said, I don't think that injury's helped him any, but he's still a name, and you're going to get now that the New York audience know who he is. That builds him a bit. Atlanta fans tuning in it are going to see him as the last big fan Vader. He's got name value. He's got size. He's got a mouthpiece. If they just nudge him a wee bit more, it's certainly a believable contender.
Yeah, they've just not quite got a hold of it. I mean, it doesn't help when you factor in what they've been doing with him at house shows, which has been invariably beating him. Now I know house shows aren't TV, but you would have thought a lot of your core pay-per-view buying audience are going to be the kind of people that are going to be at these house shows to one degree or another. And it's just, it's kind of, you could have protected, this could be a massive match. It doesn't feel like that. That's my feeling going forward, is that they've done okay with Vader. Yes, he pinned Shawn on this card. He kind of had to. A little bit tainted with interference of Cornette, but I think they did just about as well as they did with that. I think it's just more cumulatively they've missed too much with him. And I think it's also as well, like I feel like a guy like Vader, it's not even so much what you do with him, it's how you present him. And I don't feel like enough they presented Vader as any different to anything on the roster. And that's a problem. Like Vader in his pomp in 93 WCW was the biggest guy they had. When Vader was in the room, everything else kind of stopped. So that's often what it felt like on TV. You watch Raw and Vader's just, another guy. I think that's a problem. Anyway, that will bring us to the end of this show. Wayne, gives your overall thoughts on the show and a score rating out of 10.
Yeah, I think it was a pay-per-view that highlighted how poor the undercard is and how non-existent the tag division is. But thankfully we had a good match between Stone Cold and Matt Miro midway through, and a fantastic main event, which, as I said before, saved the pay-per-view for me. So nice progression of storylines. I'll give this a 6 out of 10.
Del.
I'd originally went with a 6. I'm actually going to come down a bit, Bob. I'm going to put it as a 5. It did just feel very placeholder for me. It was more about the outcomes. It's like, we're going to get Taker in Mankind, we're going to get Vader in a title match. There wasn't really much in it. I think, as I said in the first match, it kind of summed it up when the crowd just laughed at that. the Sid thing came out of nowhere. I do like what they've done with Taker and Mankind, the Gold Dust character, he's brought it on. Stone Cold, I think's a star in waiting. Shawn, God love him, just was a workhorse in the main event. To be fair, going in, he had to be. But I think for overall, it is only an In Your House, it is a B show, but I still think there was a lot of filler in this. I say it's more about the outcomes for me, so I think it's fair enough. For the work involved, I'll get a 5, but I don't think I could really get it any more than that.
Yeah, I'll split the difference, 5.5. It's not, the main event is fun, but I don't know, without Sid, that doesn't really kind of pancake in the middle. Everything else is largely missable. I mean, it's not the worst show you're ever going to see. The in-ring action is generally at least okay. I mean, there's no WCW level, like really dire first third of a show that we've seen in the past. But it's just there. And that's really, I think, the best thing to say about it. Decent show. Main event it's very good. It's an excellent main event. It's a very good main event. It goes quite long, but there's just about enough going on where you're never really bored by it. But Sid's the big surprise, and that's what we're going to be discussing coming out of the TVs.
The modern day gladiator. And Ahmed Johnson, you thought you were pretty funny, huh? Well, I had a bigger surprise for you. Now didn't I? Now we're going to get you where it counts and when it counts at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship. This is the champion of the 90s.
I bet you this, punk. You got a newfound respect for women, haven't you? This next time you address her, it'll be with a miss or Mrs. in front of it, won't it? Now let me tell you this. I heard you come out here talking about brother this, brother that. I'm not your brother. You should know there are no guidelines on the street when it comes to fighting. There are no rules that you follow on the street when it comes to fighting. At SummerSlam, I'm going to give you a crash course in what it is to go back in time in the way we've used to fight. I'm bringing that back to you. SummerSlam, I will be 15 pounds heavier, and it'll all be in gold. Get ready.
The Smoking Guns open up with Sonny on the July 22nd show. They're out pushing a birthday cake, presumably for Shawn Michaels. That could be for me, I suppose. We open up with the Guns against Shawn and Ahmed Johnson for the tag titles. Shawn lands a big super kick early, but the match hasn't started yet. Shawn wipes some cream into Sonny's face. Sonny picks up the cake in retaliation, then Ahmed pushes the cake right into her face. Shawn then wastes little time in trying to lick the icing off her face. The match is on ice, it seems. Come back to that later. Steve Austin comes to ringside for a match between Wildman Mark Mero and a hockey-playing gimmick man, The Goon. Jake Roberts joins us on the phone. They're saying he has an intercostal injury. Austin and King goad Roberts for his drinking issues. They're doing King versus Roberts on the pay-per-view next month. Mero unsurprisingly wins the match. We cut to a shot earlier in the day of Clarence Mason trying to bring someone into the WWF. He's saying this person was not convicted of any crime. This will turn out to be Crush. Mankind wins a squash. Goldust puts away Barry Horowitz. A couple of matches there. We get a promo with Jim Cornette and Vader in the ring with Vince McMahon. Nothing major beyond the confirmation that Vader will face Shawn at SummerSlam. The main event is the previously advertised tag title match. The match breaks down with a big dude in a mask coming out and beating up Ahmed Johnson. You'll recognise him as former WCW champion Ron Simmons. Shawn and Ahmed have to be split up from Ron. We open up July 29th with the news that Ahmed Johnson has been sidelined with a ruptured kidney. Sid comes out to a hero's welcome. I'm serious about that. Massive reaction. He chokeslams Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Bradshaw hits him with his rope, but Sid fights off the 2-on-1 attack and hits a powerbomb on Bradshaw, then one on Sebekaya. Sid's over, guys. We join Sonny backstage with Farouk Assad, that's Ron Simmons' name. This is already a better use of Sonny. Assad's promo is really good, but his gear needs some work. He says that at SummerSlam he'll be 15 pounds heavier, and that's all gold. He's facing Ahmed Johnson. We get a match between Vader and Mark Mero. This is decent. Mero comes off the top, but misses his float over sunset flip. Vader misses a splash. Mero goes to the top again. Vader catches him in a power slam for a 3. Jim Cornette is giddy with delight. They show a cool advert showing the WWF superstars training for the Olympics. We get an in-ring segment with Jim Cornette, who's all over TV at the moment. He's in the ring with Vince and Jose Lothario. Cornette runs down how Shawn idolised Lothario. Cornette says Lothario has become a has-been in San Antonio. He's on fire here. Cornette eventually oversteps the mark and Lothario grabs his collar, then threatens Cornette. We then basically get exactly the same spot from the free-for-all at the pay-per-view. Lothario ducks a tennis racket shot and then lays out Cornette. We cut to commercial, but not before seeing Mankind put Shawn Michaels in the mandible claw. Next up is the British Bulldog versus Henry O. Godwin. Owen Hart out on commentary. He says he's spoken to his doctor and his cast will be able to come off in 6 weeks. Maybe. Bulldog wins with a power slam, and we then see Mark Henry setting a powerlifting record. Head of Austin against The Undertaker in the main event. We see Mankind in a boiler room, apparently. That will come into play later. Mankind comes out the R-way and brawls with The Undertaker midway through the match. This shockingly leads to a count out and Austin wins the match. They brawl backstage. Undertaker returns and tombstones Austin, because of course now he can, because the match has ended. We can then cut Austin's legs off. Undertaker says it's time the Reaper enters the Serpent's Lair.
The mentor of one Shawn Michaels, the legendary Jose Lothario. And of course, representing the man they call Vader, Jim Cornette. Now, you've asked for this. You know what happened the last time. I'm sure you don't want to be embarrassed because at face-to-face, quite frankly, you were not on your, sizable whatever it was by Mr. Lothario.
Go ahead and be cute. I'm watching you. Don't go in your pocket and pull that switchblade out again. I'm warning you right now. Now let me explain something. I don't want any violence out here. I wanted to talk to you because there's something I got to say to you. I haven't forgotten what happened between us at the free-for-all. I haven't forgotten how you put your hands on me and beat me up. I haven't forgotten none of that. And I want to tell you here tonight just exactly how I'm going to get even with you for it. You see, a lot of people don't realize this, and I had to do some checking because I wondered why Jose Lothario just all of a sudden popped up in the World Wrestling Federation.
Right.
So I did a little checking. Into the background, I found out Jose Lothario was a great wrestler in his day. A lot of people know that. You were a legend. Beat a lot of people, won a lot of titles. But you were so great that one person in particular, a little 17-year-old high school kid in San Antonio, Texas, thought you were the greatest thing in the world, and that kid was Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels came to you and said, Jose, will you please teach me how to be a wrestler? And you said yes, but you did more than that. Because you all of a sudden became like a father to Shawn Michaels, and he became like a son to you. And when you taught him how to wrestle,
don't forget,
then he
Shawn
went
Michaels
off on
watching
his
this interview.
career.
Don't try anything.
He traveled the world. He left San Antonio.
What's the point of this?
But you know what happened to him?
Don't interrupt.
He stayed in San Antonio. His career was over, and he became a stinking, no good has-been. He was sitting at home in San Antonio on the back porch with a scrapbook full of memories of when you were somebody, but you were a nobody, and nobody cared whether you lived or stinking died.
Tell it like it is.
But then one day this year, the call came. It was Shawn Michaels. Please, Jose, come back. I got the biggest match of my life coming up, and I want you to help me and teach me and lead me again. And you did. The bond was still there, and he won the title. Well, now, Jose, you're somebody. Well, I got news for you, old man. You dried up old fossil. I'm going to take that away from you. That's how I'm going to get even with you. I'm going to take it away from you. Because when Vader beats Shawn Michaels and makes him an ex-champion, then you're going to be back down there on the back porch in San Antonio, out there in the field, picking whatever it is they grow down there. You're going to be a nobody and a has-been, and nobody's going to care whether you live or stink and die. That's how I'm going to get even with you. Because Jose Lothario, I think you're nothing but trash.
Whoa.
And if you taught Shawn Michaels everything he knows, then that must mean that Shawn Michaels is trash too.
Whoa! Hey! Here we go again! Get your hands off of Jimmy! We need some help out here! We need some help for Cornette!
You involve my family, and especially Shawn Michaels.
Man, do something!
You're going to really get a surprise in life, because I'm going to kick you butt like nobody done it before.
Look at this! I can't believe it! Come on, man! Yeah, whoa! Oh, no! I can't believe it! Jimmy! Listen,
TVs, come and gone. Another fairly uneventful month on television, but there are some discussion points that I think we're going to go through. I know we discussed into quite a lot of detail during the show itself, but I think Sid is the first place to start. Dale, I think we'll start with the TVs that aired prior to the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
That July 9th show where they essentially had everything pre-taped as of the end of June, and obviously as of the end of June included Warrior being involved. Now they had actually taped an angle where Warrior was beaten up by the three heels, but decided that enough people knew about it where it wasn't going to wash. So they went full frontal, as you heard, with Gorilla Monsoon. And then they had to basically retape all the commentary and then splice in a load of segments in a studio with Jim Cornette and with Shawn Michaels, with Ahmed Johnson, and ultimately with Sid. And then, talk about that, and also talk about the bit on the show prior where Sid comes, there's that angle they shoot, and Cornette chucks the water into Shawn Michaels' face. They storm out to the car parking lot. A brawl starts, and then Sid, just this motherfucker,
just fucking steams in it,
crashes into what I think was some bins or some pallets.
I think it was a bin. There was some pallets.
A bit of everything.
Killed anybody? I don't know.
And then just gets out of his car and steams after the heels.
Yeah.
That's what are your thoughts on all that, Del?
It genuinely, he's mentioned a lottery ticket earlier. It genuinely seems as if they've won a watch with Sid, and it's just come out of nowhere. Everybody knows who he is. He's been about, God, how many years now? And if you're looking for a body, Sid Judy he can't be a kick in the backside at 7 feet if he's not 7 feet already. He's built like a tank. He just looks different, whether it's the kind of noodle hair or the kind of mental facials that they've really got playing with a Psycho Sid character instead of him being like Sid Justice or Sid Vicious. It's something that's different, and you tune in, you're going to see, we've talked about how they've kind of seemingly made Vader into just another guy. Sid could be a bit of a saviour. When you're looking at Jake, as King kept referring to on and off through the month, we don't know what's happening with him. He's got name value. Brett doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon. You need people that's going to get eyes on a product, and as much as I wouldn't maybe 3-4 weeks ago, I wouldn't have booked Sid into any kind of place like this. He's a name that you could bring in, and it's somebody that fans are going to recognise. And there's some matches in him where he's just a big unity of man. He's going to set up maybe a smaller, younger kind of good guy, but it's just come out of nowhere for me. It is just like when he came in that TV, when it's just at the end, he just steams in the motor out of nowhere, and it's like, that's literally what he's done with this kind of comeback. And you hear about it all the time, more kind of you hear about Pat Patterson just going back to WrestleMania where he wanted to sit in the crowd to see how the reaction was to Brett and Shawn. If they're just tuned into the fans, man, as you say, it wasn't a one and done in Vancouver. This carried over, and Sid is just an absolute unknown quantity at this point, because people are loving him, and I would be very, very surprised if he's not teed up very soon after Vader for the title, wherever that may lie next month. I would be very surprised if he isn't, because it's just a total second win for the big man.
Do you want to do Sid and Vader?
Personally, no, but who knows, man? If you've got the crowd on side with Sid, you've got Vader's as good a worker as you're going to get at that size. There's potential to make a chicken salad out of chicken shit. Whether they can carry it off, I don't know. I would need personally for me, I would need a Shawn or an Owen or a Brett or something like that in the middle of a show to kind of come after Sid and Vader, just depending where the title is. You would need something to back up as an overall pay-per-view, but with the way that things are going with them now, I wouldn't say no.
What?
Yeah, I think we're 3 for 3 when it comes to how much luck, how lucky WWF have been with this, really. As you touched on it before, Bob, with the pay-per-view review, how Sid left. He just fizzled out. He was with the $1 Million Corporation, and he was a nothing heel. He was, like you said, Vader is now just another name on the card. And for him to come back to the reaction he did was definitely took me by surprise. I touched on it before. I think not only have they looked out with the way that this is carried over to the next night and the possibility of pushing Sid into a big babyface role, but the fact that he's slotted in nicely with into the role of what Warrior was doing. They've probably got it's probably got far with their expectations, really, because I don't think they would have been looking to push Warrior into the top spot. And the fact that they could possibly do this with Sid is very, very positive for them. But I probably just have to say, watch this space, because in all honesty, is he any different to his character when he was the heel?
He's over. Well,
he's over, but is that not just gonna fizzle out because he's exactly the same as portraying the same character as before? So it's more of a case of let's wait and see and see whether it would carry over into months. But it all depends on the booking, really.
Yeah, there is no reasonable explanation as to why all of this happened. I really don't think there is. I mean, it's not like it was one-off in Vancouver. They did a taping in Seattle for Raw. I think Sid was on the 29th tape. It was taped the same night. And Sid got Heroes Welcome. And he's like, what the hell's this? I don't know, but it's like, we talked about Warrior getting stale or kind of, losing his luster. They've almost lucked out here. And one idea I had, I was, somewhat surprised that when Warrior was pulled from the show, they didn't try and kind of emulate WCW and say, mystery third partner. I was a little bit surprised it didn't go there.
Bring in the Renegade.
Well, yeah. But more the case of, because I thought it would just be a home run that Warrior pulls out and you pick up the phone to Bret Hart and say, come in and be the mystery third man at this show in Vancouver and just get this, worthy of a reaction. He would have got a better reaction than Sid, but not by a lot. And they've still got Bret off TV and that's all well and there, but they found themselves a new babyface, which isn't a bad spot to be in. As for Sid going forward, it's tricky. Sid is perfect for a 6-man tag spot. Sid in main events, if it's not Shawn Michaels, Shawn Michaels can run around for him, I'm sure. Sid against Vader, we will wait and see. Speaking of which, let's move on to the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior was suspended by the WWF this month following him no-showing a run of live events at the end of June. It was a story that played out on television almost exactly as it did in real life, with Gorilla Monsoon admitting Warrior's suspension and saying that he'd only be allowed to return if he posted an appearance bond, with stories saying that the bond will be anywhere in the range of $100,000 to $250,000. That the money mentioned didn't make it to TV anyway. Beyond the pre-existing issues surrounding Warrior's previous departures from the company, it seems the latest breakdown in the relationship between him and Vince McMahon stemmed from the WWF using some of Warrior's own slogans as part of the WWF marketing campaign. Warrior felt he should have been informed and given a cut of sales. This was compounded further by the passing of Warrior's father on the final weekend in June, which didn't line up in the WWF's mind, as it said Warrior missed shows prior to his death, along with the fact that Warrior has told people that he hasn't spoken to his father since the age of 3. Hellwig did an online interview, denied that the issues were anything related to his contract. If resolving my personal issues and protecting the way I choose to believe puts me in the WWF doghouse, as stated on the money-making 1-900 line, then so be it. Bow wow and kiss my ass. Always believe. The situation played out on television, as you would have heard, with Gorilla Monsoon announcing his suspension in what was essentially a shoot. While the WWF did have Raw taped already, with Warrior getting beaten down by the heels, it said they felt too many people already knew the truth. After contacting Bret Hart, who turned it down, Warrior was replaced at all events by the returning Psycho Sid. Wayne, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Warrior has a history. There's a lot going on with Warriors. We just heard in that pre-tape. But yeah, it's just a kind of, it's not seriously, it's the end of his run. It may not be, but it's just a kind of flat end to a character that wasn't really going anywhere.
Yeah, if those burnt bridges had just been rebuilt, it's going to be even harder to rebuild them now. As I said, he's got previous for this, and no different this time round. So Vince McMahon's thinking could be a lot different to what he's thought in the past. So what are we going to see from Warrior moving forward? Links for WCW maybe, NWO possibly going against them. Could be, but yeah, in regards of his character in WWF, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Really, it was growing stale. He got a massive pop when in his return around about the WrestleMania time, and he's carried off some matches since then, which have by no means been that impressive. So it is same old Warrior, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to miss the guy.
Oh.
Similar to Wayne, to be honest, Bob. He's not got the perfect record going back, whether it was kind of going back to the 91-92 time when he had the issues with Vince. It seems to be happening again. I don't really see where he fits in, even if he is there, because we've seen it at Mania with Helmsley. If he's just going to be coming in and crushing up and comers, that doesn't really help anybody. He's not getting a title. I refuse to see him with another title reign under Vince. I just don't think he could trust him for it. I mean, if you're not going to have him as a title and you're not going to have him building young and upcomers, what is this? He has a name, he has a pop, he has something that's going to put asses in seats. But apart from that, I mean, for me, the best thing from a selfish point of view for Warrior would maybe even begin back to getting the Blade Runners back together, sitting with Sting. It's something there, go up against an NWO. I just don't see anything in New York for him.
For what it's worth, Warriors, I mean, who knows if he's still only suspended at the moment, he's under contract, but as I understand it, if Warrior were to end up leaving, he'd have to sit out the rest of his contract, so he wouldn't be available for WCW for another year at least.
I really worry for him, because as I say, I've a lot of time for the guy. I mean, Jim Hellwig is an enigma. He's in front of the camera, behind the camera. You haven't a fucking clue what he's talking about half the time, and I don't think he's any different in real life as he is doing the camera. But I just don't see realistically where you can put him. As sad as it makes me, because he was amazing in his day, whether that's youth or whether that's kind of tinted glasses looking back in history, I don't know, but it seems as if to me it is just going to be a case where he's going to be running out of contract, and for a man of that kind of look, he's unique. There isn't anybody like him, no matter what the Renegades might try and kind of convince you of. It's just, I think it's just a bit of a sad end for me, and when you see him coming back in and he still gets the reaction, he still get the entrance, he still get the rope shake, he still get the run. But apart from that, it's like, what else is there? And I really don't know. Where they've pulled a rabbit out of the hat with Sid, I would like to think it's the same for Jim Hellwig, but I've got my doubts.
Yeah, we've spoken about Warrior over the last couple of months, just how, Warrior at this stage feels like he should be 15, 20 years ago in the territories, and that you come in, he gets hot for a few months, then he leaves. Ironically, that might be exactly what happens in this situation anyway. But yeah, it just kind of, it's just not a character, and he's not a guy that I think really fits in 1996 anymore. There's too much television, there's too many big shows, there's only really one way of booking Warrior, and that is All Out. Unless Warrior's, 1 or 1A, it just doesn't work. A mid-card Ultimate Warrior doesn't really make any sense, because he's not the Ultimate Warrior anymore. But yeah, it's, as to how it will apart, I mean, only the guys in the know really understand, I suppose. But a bit of an ugly ending if it is the end of his run. But yeah, in a funny kind of way, it might help in the sense that it was that, or just fizzle out in the WWF, and I don't know that helps Warrior either. Let's talk about Ron Simmons, Wayne. In as Farouk Assad aligned with Sonny. This has potential. I'm not feeling it yet, but I think Sonny needs to be with a a significant singles act, of which Ron Simmons is, and I think the WWF could definitely use a big powerhouse, good talker like Ron Simmons.
Yeah, and we've seen him in good matches before as well, so all you need to do is just change the look of him, because it just looks like a futuristic gladiator gimmick. I mean, obviously, that's the route that they're going down, but the outfit he wears just, it just screams out, cartoonish character. And, we're trying to move away from things like that, bringing, people like Psycho Sid back and giving it more of a real feel again. But, we've got characters there that, like the Goon, we've got a plumber gimmick, and, this is just another gladiator gimmick. So change that up, like you said, have him with Summit, and, push him really far. And I think this guy has definitely got potential to be a big name on the heel side anyway.
Del.
How you introduced him there, Bob, was a big guy that can talk. You've got big guys with like Bulldog, can't talk for shit. Ahmed Johnson, he's just green as grass. Farouk, Ron Simmons is just like a better version of all of the above. The worry for me is putting him with Sonny. It's as if they don't want him to talk. They are just going to keep him with her talking for him. He has spoke already on camera, which is a good thing. He needs to fucking dump that outfit though. It's Ron Simmons, kind of what I'd said earlier on.
Ron Simmons looks like a real tough bastard in ordinary gear. There's no need to put anything on him. Like, you just look at him like shit.
I mean, I said it earlier on when I was talking about Steve Austin, what they've done with him. Bad motherfucker, you think Ron Simmons. He's tough as shit. He's going to beat up anybody that he's in a ring with, and he just... I mean, dare I say, if there's anybody that can walk into a room dressed up, like, as Wayne said, a future gladiator, it's probably going to be Ron Simmons that's the last one to make you laugh at it. But it's still the notion that the laugh is there. It doesn't work with somebody like Ron Simmons. He's just a big, tough bastard. And he shouldn't be saddled with stupid things like what Wayne was saying. I mean, we've seen the debut of the Goon this month. He looks like a Goon with that helmet and the blue outfit. I don't want him to be a character like a TL Hopper or a Goon. I want him to be a character if he needs to be like a Taker or a Mankind or a Goldust. It needs to be something that people can invest in. But when you've got somebody like Ron Simmons, as we even seen him when he came into ECW, you don't need a gimmick. He's Ron Simmons, that's his gimmick. He's gonna kick your ass. And you don't need any more than that. Let him beat down jobbers. Let him come in. I mean, you could even, what we're seeing in Atlanta, the new with an NWO, where they're seen as the future, and this is like a hostile takeover. There's nothing to stop a Ron Simmons coming in and just kick fuck out of a Mantor, or kick fuck out of a TL Hopper, and just rid the company of these cartoon characters.
Don't want to make him a babyface though.
Well, true. It's the tightrope you walk, but when he's got that character, when he's saying that he's coming in and he's going to be bringing back the old style of gladiatorial warfare and just fighting to the death, that's a gimmick. I just don't think he needs the bells and whistles of outfits to emphasise that. He's got it. He has it. You don't need any more than that.
Yeah, it's funny, like, I don't think I'd have been thinking about Ron Simmons this year about being a big difference maker, and now he's here, I feel like he could be. I feel like he'd be a good matchup for a lot of guys at the top of the card. We've seen him against Vader before in a big matches in WCW. That works. Him against Shawn could work. There's plenty of potential on both sides. I mean, keep as a heel for now, obviously. But yeah, just, big potential. The debut was okay, but yeah, the ring gear is really odd. One more name to discuss before we finish up. Del, Jim Cornette, who I think you can tell is all over the booking just by the fact he's all over television. But given WWF's deficiency in the talking side, I think you can fully understand why he's all over television.
Yeah.
But it feels like a bit of a step saying, let's put him in the main event of the pay-per-view after SummerSlam.
I love Jimmy, but if we're going to go back to like a scaffold match kind of situation, we know how that one ended. He's very much, I get them in the building and then let the spotlight go for him on his talent. Jimmy Cornette will sell you tickets. I don't know whether I would buy tickets to see him. It's his knacky getting people through a door and getting their arse on a seat that he's good at. Again, I can understand the reasons why. It does stinky Jim Cornette's fingerprints, the booking that's on this, but as you say, when he's got the people that Owen Hart, as much as I love him, he's not a great promo. Bulldog is 10 times worse, but you do kind of need that mouth, and he is somebody still in this day and age in 1996. I would be more than willing to bet that a lot of people that go into a WWF building still want to get their hands on Jim Cornette, which is what he's good at. But as I say, if it's going to be getting him into a match, how does that work? It's like you kind of take away what makes him good. He's good on the outside to rile folk up. He's good to throw in a tennis racket and let somebody get slapped round the head with it. If you put him in the spotlight, I just don't see what it does for anybody else. His biggest asset to any company, whether it's a Smoky Mountain, God rest it, or a WWF, he should be the reason that you actually give a shit about the match. When he's in the match, it doesn't build up the match itself. I think it's going to take away from it, but we can only wait and see.
What?
To be fair, I don't mind seeing Cornette in a match. I'm really happy that he's been all over TV this month and carried off some promos really, really well. I mean, he's just being Cornette, but turned up even more with him doing the booking himself. So I'm all for that. The only thing I don't want to see is Jose Lothario in a match. You know, I'm just not a fan of this guy at all. So if that's the route they're going to go down and we have to see Lothario in a match, then I'll probably agree with Dylan saying I don't want to see him in the match if that's the reason why. But you know, with Cornette in a match, just you know, his comparison to Heenan being in matches before. So you know, I'm not going to say anything negative that much because you know, like you said, we all want to see how everyone get their hands on Cornette. So for that reason, I'm all for it, but just not a fan of Lothario on the other side.
No, I mean, Cornette's working wonders on the mic on his side, but Lothario's not effective enough. He's not a good enough talker. It's not even his promo ability, it's more just how he talks. It just doesn't quite work. And yeah, I mean, you know, they're talking about kind of a tag match, Shawn and Lothario against Vader and Cornette. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I guess it's a filler show, but it's like, you put that in the main event, you're presenting me a filler pay-per-view. And I don't know that you know, I feel like these pay-per-views need to have a bit more than what they're giving. I know the idea is they're cheaper, they're, you know, less than 2 hours, etc., etc. But you put that as the main event and it's like, this is a skippable show. But we will see. Anyway, that will wrap up this month's show, much shorter than usual, but not a ton to discuss. Firstly, thank you to Wayne Lythgoe.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Wayne, you can be found on Twitter.
I can, yes, and that's Wayne L84.
And Del Muir.
Pleasure as always, Bob.
Del, you're sort of on Twitter, but sort of not using it anymore.
I think it's there. If you want to follow me, you can follow. You're not going to miss much. So.
No, there we go. At Del_Muir, is that right?
That's me.
That's the one. Anyway, yeah, that's that. Yeah, big month this month. Volume 1, if you've not heard it already, WCW covering Bash at the Beach, Hulk Hogan's heel turn, probably about double the length of this show, such how long we went. Volume 3, ECW, that's Del and Chris. Del, was it Heat Wave?
It was Heat Wave 96. Yeah. Again, similar to WWF, not too much, but always an interesting listen.
Yeah, there's enough going on, let's say that, enough bubbling under. And Volume 4 is all of your UFC action, the debut of Mark Coleman at UFC 10. That'll do that. You can find me on Twitter at Bamber. You can find the podcast at Wrestling20YRS. Wrestling20YRS.com is where everything is, really. All of the links exist on there for back episodes, blogs, everything you need, really. And that'll do that. I've been Bob Bamber. This has been Volume 2 of the July 1996 edition of the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast. And until next time, goodbye.